A Yellow Productions travel chat has Instagram ruined travel plus live Q&A. I'm Chris, this is Yellow Productions. I do travel guides that are fun, informative, and entertaining. This is a live stream. If you're on the live stream, I'm definitely looking forward to hanging out with you guys for the next hour. If you're watching the archive, we'll definitely make sure to subscribe and click that bell to turn on notifications so you get notified of these live streams that I typically do on Monday nights. But in this video, I'm going to be having a conversation about whether Instagram or social media has ruined travel. The mass media loves to report about how social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, has destroyed popular travel destinations. But has Instagram really ruined travel? I'll share my opinion about it, and once we're done having that conversation, I'll take some live Q&A afterwards. This is one of my quarterly open Q&A videos, so any questions about any topic you have is good during that section, though the first part of it will kind of hold to this section about whether Instagram has truly ruined travel or not. So, but this notion of has Instagram ruined travel? You would certainly think so if you read the major media headlines. As I was researching this video, I found headlines like, Instagram has ruined the joy of traveling. How Instagram ruined traveling for me. 15 destinations Instagram has helped ruin. That one's from Insider.com. From the New York Times, they have an article with the headline of, is geotagging on Instagram ruining natural wonders? Some say yes. And even Fodor's, the travel guide's gotten into this and says 10 places being ruined by Instagram. So the first kind of story that I want to talk about, and this is one that was in the major media here, was about the Lake Elsinore poppies. Lake Elsinore, California, it's a fairly small town of like 60,000 people that's 80 miles kind of southeast of Los Angeles. And Lake Elsinore is famous for this poppy bloom. They have this amazing poppy field, and every few years it gets tons of rain, and when there's tons of rain, there's tons of poppies. And so in California, we've had 2 really good years of rain, and so they called it the super bloom this year. But this town was facing what it called the apocalypse this March. Because there were so many people who came. In one weekend, 66,000 tourists descended on this town that had way less residents, and literally the town was stuck in gridlock. And I'll tell you, I was one of those people stuck in gridlock. But the city social media termed the situation a hashtag poppy nightmare. And they were actually closing city streets to non-residents. And the conversation about this was, this all happened because of Instagram. But it was not because of Instagram. I'll tell you, the way I found out about it, it was on the local news. It was on the LA news. All the news stations picked it up. So I think this one is less about social media. And yes, people go there to take pictures, but people have been going places to take pictures forever. But the TV media that advertises it wants to blame social media because they're a lot better to blame. Another interesting Instagram phenomenon, you may have heard of this Chernobyl TV series. It's on HBO. It kind of talks about, Ukraine and the whole Chernobyl incident. That's the nuclear meltdown there. And actually, Chernobyl has become a tourist destination in its own. This is a photo taken from the exclusion zone in Ukraine. This is where you're not supposed to go because it's radioactive. Now there's over 20,000 posts on Instagram with the hashtag exclusion zone. And people are going there because they really want to get these pictures, which it's an interesting picture, but, do you want to get radioactive? And people will blame this on Instagram, but there are actually like tour companies that are operating tours into the exclusion zone. Brandon Torres says they always pin the blame on the social networking sites. It is easy. CFR Travel says those poppies, even in Minnesota, it was on the local news. That is impressive, and that explains people going far and wide. Melissa says, in my opinion, it's better for travel. I never consider traveling growing up, but now with pictures, Instagram, YouTube, I see so many things I want to experience and check it out. It's awesome, Melissa. Mr. Canet said the same thing happened in Death Valley with the super bloom this year. Did you go there? And QB3 says it's illegal to pick the poppy flowers. Thank you for that tip. And Nicholas has given me kind words saying my channel's underrated. I used to plan out my vacations. There isn't enough channels like yours. Thank Nicholas. I appreciate it. And Jeff says one of the reasons why Instagram has ruined travel is, yes, too many photos are fake. We'll talk about what fakeness means in a little bit, but I do agree with that one. All right. So in addition to Ukraine, you know, this whole, like, all these people going and posting things on social media, now there's a lot of tourist destinations and cities that are often having, like, unhashtag campaigns, and one of them was Vienna. Vienna actually had a unhashtag Vienna campaign, and they said, enjoy Vienna with a V, not Vienna with a hashtag. Unhashtag your location. And here's what the tourism board or this group in Vienna said. They said, social media allows us to travel the world every day without even getting up off the couch. But the places we swipe through are not filled with life or memories. They're littered with hashtags and diluted by filters. This is an invitation from Vienna, an ideal place for a little bit of digital detox and for creating moments that you and you alone can treasure forever. Because Vienna is far more colorful when not seen through the lens of a smartphone camera. So whip out your city map, make plans, and throw them away again. Simply let your senses guide you, and no worries, you won't go cold turkey when you give yourself a day offline. I think that's a very interesting campaign. But all these things, right, like this thing about Vienna, you know, they're encouraging people not to see the city through the lens of their smartphone, but actually to see and embark the city, right? I think another one of the problems that people pin on Instagram or they pin on Facebook or they pin on any photo sharing site is they say, well, people are only going to take pictures, and they're only going to take pictures because they want to post on these social media sites, and therefore they are not enjoying the destination because all they're doing is trying to take these photos. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. But Vic says, I think Instagram is a tool to decide where to go. Interesting, Vic. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. And Judy wonders why people want to go to that exclusion zone in Ukraine. Yeah, I think they want to go places like, there's a lot of people who want to go to like undiscovered places, you know, places that haven't been discovered. Kathy says, I don't use Instagram. I'm mainly on Facebook and YouTube. They've given me many tips on where to travel. Jeff says, State College, Pennsylvania gets 3 times as many people as those who live there full time. When Penn State has a home football game, I guess they have far more experience dealing with the crowds. Yeah, so speaking of dealing with the crowds, a headline that agrees with my position on this, The Atlantic had a headline that was pretty similar to this, and their headline was, the problem is not social media, the problem is too many people want to travel. And so the problem is really one of the problems, one of the 2 problems that I'll outline in this. The first one is really mass tourism. And it's actually not mass tourism, but it's an infrastructure issue. It's mass tourism to a place that has no infrastructure, right? The problem is there are just too many people thronging popular tourist destinations that weren't designed for that many people. For example, 30 million visitors to Barcelona every year. Barcelona's population, 1.6 million. Maybe someplace even worse, 20 million visitors to Venice. Population, 50,000. You end up with attractions that look like this. This is Stonehenge. And I'm pretty sure if you were going to Stonehenge, you've all seen the pictures of Stonehenge, and it doesn't ever look like this in the pictures, because the pictures you always see of Stonehenge are of these stones in the middle with no people there that somebody took at sunrise before it opened. And I guess to Jeff's point about pictures being fake, one of the one of the beef I like to pick with Instagram pictures are these people who take pictures that are kind of fake because they take the picture without any people, and then you get to the destination and you're like, that was not what I was led to believe that destination would actually look like. But it's sort of interesting when people say, I want to go places that are off the beaten path or being over touristed. Obviously, I've got a lot of videos about Las Vegas. Is it possible for some place like Las Vegas to be over touristed? I'm not sure that it is, because Las Vegas was a city designed for tourists, right? The same thing goes for Orlando, the home of Disney World. Is it possible for Orlando to be too over touristed? Orlando only exists because of tourists. But a super popular tourist attraction that many of you are probably familiar for is the Louvre Museum. The Louvre Museum. My French is not really good. The Louvre in Paris, France, the home of the Mona Lisa. And in May of this year, the workers from the Louvre actually walked out, arguing that overcrowding of the home of the Mona Lisa had made the place dangerous and unmanageable. The Workers' Union for the museum wrote in a statement that said, the Louvre suffocates, citing total inadequacy of the museum's facilities to manage the high volume of visitors. But so whose fault is it? Is it China's fault? There's way more Chinese traveling today than there was before. Is it the fault of the budget airlines? There's way more airlines that you can go places way cheaper than before. Is it the fault of Airbnb? Because you can get lodging cheaper. Well, Iceland would definitely love to blame WOW Airlines, speaking of budget airlines. And I've seen many stories that say, oh, the problem, Iceland, nobody knew about Iceland, and this discount carrier started there, and then all these people started coming to Iceland, and it became overcrowded, but because there was also no tourist infrastructure. Let's see. Adventure Mate says the account Travel and Leisure on Instagram posts way too many filters and also try to make poisonous lakes look enjoyable for tourists on kayaks or paddle boards. That's a really classic Iceland thing too. You see all these great lakes that are purple and green. Let's see. Kathy said she's been to Stonehenge, lovely place. It didn't look like that. So Kathy, I guess you picked a pretty good time to go. Melissa says, I'm one of those people who take photos non-stop. I'm still enjoying the moment, but I want those photos for memories. If I ever lose my memory one day, I want to remember. Jhorn4 says, Hawaii has tons of place for Instagram photos. That's how my wife planned the trip. Evan Cortez says, speaking of Vegas, if they keep up the fees, it won't be popular at all, which that's pretty true. Okay, so, but when you see these great destinations and you see these places and maybe like you're going to Iceland because you're, planning going to see the Northern Lights, or you're going to see these natural destinations, what you are not expecting is what you are expecting is you're expecting to see something like this, right? You're expecting, I'm going to get this photo of me in the middle of nowhere. It's just nature. But then you actually get to some place, and again, it looks like this. Nobody wants to see this photo. Everybody wants to see this photo. But you know what? There's probably a line of like 20 people behind that person waiting to take that photo. And, this one on the Great Wall, I mean, that's just crazy. That's not the photo of the Great Wall that most people take, right? But that's an actual photo of the Great Wall of China. So I think it's pretty funny to go to these like Insta-famous locations that I've seen on Instagram and end up seeing something like this, or end up seeing that line of people that are waiting to take the picture, and you're like, oh, that's how people take the picture. But on the notion of people using Instagram to plan their trips, those of you who do that, you are not alone. An Expedia survey found that 30% of Americans look to social media for inspiration to travel. There was a study done by WeSwap, and they found that particularly in millennials, 61% of millennials take Instagrammability into account before traveling. And by the way, if you're curious what the most Instagrammed place in the world is, it is Disneyland in Anaheim, California. Disneyland has more than 23 million tags on Instagram, making it a more photogenic spot than Times Square or even Walt Disney World in Florida. It's more popular than the Grand Canyon, the Eiffel Tower, Big Ben. But But one of the things often when you see a lot of these Instagram photos, they're often quite shallow. And this is another thing about them being fake. Like, people who take a lot of props, people who take fashion shoots and swimsuits, they take the swimsuits to Iceland to be like, oh, it's not hot, it's pretty cold, but you wanted to take this picture just for an Instagram picture, which actually makes a lot of these pictures, particularly the ones that have a lot of people in them at these destinations, they really seem to be quite shallow. Because in that case, they're more about the people and they're more about the photo shoot and less about the destination. But this notion of people taking pictures, and I know many of you said, well, you like to take pictures, and I totally think that's fine. I like to take pictures too. I like to take video. I think the problem in this case, and this is the second problem with Instagram, where people say Instagram ruined travel for me, is when people aren't enjoying the destination anymore because they are hyper-focused just on the perfect Instagram pictures. If taking pictures, whether they be for Instagram or anything, has overcome your trip, so you're not enjoying the trip anymore because you're just checking it off, it's probably unhealthy. That's actually something I need to pay attention to. As someone who makes travel videos, I need to check myself and be like, am I still enjoying my trip, or have I stopped enjoying my trip? And am I just here to make the video? And if I'm just here to make the video, then I've kind of missed the point. And there was an earlier comment about wanting to take pictures for your memories. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I started making videos and posting them on YouTube, was for me, so that I can go back and look at the places I've been. And you're right, those places 10 years ago, it's kind of hard to remember. And so I think it's great that I can put them online and you guys can appreciate them too. But I do have to make a conscious effort on trips to say, I am not going to record this. I'm going to stop and I'm going to put my camera away. Today I'm going to put my camera away because all work and no play makes Chris a dull boy. And I actually think it's one of the trends that I like, not in travel, but in concerts. I like the trends at concerts where they say, please keep your phones away. Because I don't like, people who go to concerts and they just have their phone up all the time to record. I don't think you can really enjoy the concert when your phone's up all the time recording. And then I certainly can't enjoy it if I'm behind that person looking at their phone that's just up like this all the time, right? All they'll remember from that concert is, boy, my arm is tired. And then they're going to want to go back and watch the concert, and they'll watch it on their crappy cell phone video they took. But the actual concert in real life was a lot more interesting than the concert there. But I think all these things, whether we like it or not, social media is here to stay. My personal perspective, and this is more on the YouTube side of things, is I think it's beneficial, right? OC Girl points out, though, that one of the problems is that there are often more full-time social influencers, and for those people, taking the perfect Instagram is their job. That's very true. And so it's interesting. Those people are really going to want to bring their props, and they're really going to want to block everyone out because that photo could actually mean a lot of money for them. Shotgunzilla says, Instagram, now that they don't show the number of likes, maybe we'll cut down on some of the Instagram like-aholics. Perhaps we can only see. Evan Cortez says, at some point in the future, the videos and pictures become the memories. XXYYY says, video phone quality is good nowadays. It's good, but it's not great. I mean, if you're at a concert and you're holding it up like this, it's not that good. I guarantee the music video you go and see at home is probably a lot better than that one that you have in your hand. Because one of the problems, particularly at home with phones and things like that, at concerts, is the dynamic range, the difference between white and black, and also the audio. Phones make for lousy concert videos. Pharaoh says no more secret locations with the internet. And that's probably why people want to go to the exclusion zone so they can see some secret places. Evan Cortez says, back in the day, the only thing you lifted up at the concert was a candle, or maybe a lighter, right? Melissa says, I take a lot of pics and videos at concerts, but I'm always respectful of the people. I never hold it up too high because I don't want to block the view of the people behind me. Well, that's nice of you, Melissa. Journal Wright says, Charlotte, North Carolina has increased its tourism due to the local news and hotel concierge because people want to save money and live like a local. So what am I drinking today? Today I am drinking fresh fresh blended watermelon juice. Perfect beverage. Maker Mr. Cadet Mike says, I still think it's a generational thing. The pendulum swings with the technology. Shotgunzilla says, going to Disneyland, waiting in line must add to people posting their photos while waiting for their rides. You know, actually, sometimes when I go to Disneyland and I do a YouTube story or something, I do post that while I'm waiting there. Because why wouldn't you? Because you got nothing better to do when you're waiting in that line. All right, so at this point, I'd like to introduce some of the new Tophers that arrived, and then I'm going to go ahead and take open question and answers. So there are 4 new Tophers that arrived this week, and let me bring them up here. We've got this one, and we've got this guy, and we've got this one. So, The first Topher submission right here, this is Topher submission number 7. This is a puppet from Debbie and Josh in New York City. I'm gonna put my hands in here, and his arms move, and his head moves, and if he gets shy, he can just hop on in his little bamboo. So that's pretty cute. Thank you very much, Debbie and Josh in New York City. Next up, we have submission number 8, Topher submission number 8 right here. This one's from Dave in Australia, in the state of Victoria. Comes from the land of Down Under. Pretty cute looking guy with some little silvery feet right here. And then submission number 9, this is in the form of 2 pandas from Eric and Autumn. These 2 pandas, you may recognize this one right here. He's got a buddy right up there from Rob in Texas. It was actually the second panda submitted, and they realized that after they sent it, so they mailed a second one right here, this cute guy who is really travel size. So if you, first of all, so thank you to Debbie, Josh, Dave, Eric, and Autumn that sent these pandas. If you have a panda that you'd like to submit for Topher submissions, we'll be doing the final, here they all are, after October 31st. But you still got some time. You can get your Topher submission traveling to Chris Rainey, 1180 Rosecrans Street, number 201, San Diego, California, 92106. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to set these guys over here. They'll join that back wall for the next live stream. All right, and so now it is open question and answer time. So go ahead and ask your questions. Any subject counts, and I will answer them in the order that they're received. And by the way, I love the comments about, hey, he lives in bamboo. I like Topher number 7. The eyes are really cute. Topher number 8 looks like he just did acid. And House of Sid says he still likes polar bears the best. And somebody asked for a picture of all the Topher submissions together, so I'm going to take that today, and I'll post that up tomorrow on Facebook, Instagram, and my YouTube community page. If you want to see that, follow me on one of those places. You'll find links in the description below to my social media spots. All right, so Sigma Rex says, please answer my question. What is the best starting point for someone who wishes to make a career of traveling? Wow, that's quite a question, Sigma Rex. And, you know, if you think my career is traveling, my career is actually not traveling. I have a computer science background, so I work in the computer field. I have a full-time job doing stuff with computers, and I do this YouTube thing for fun. I would say if there's a channel that maybe you want to look at as someone who's a full-time traveler, there's a channel called David's Been Here. It's like all one word, David's Been Here. I met him in Seoul. We did the YouTuber trip there together. He's a full-time YouTuber. You could take a look at some of the stuff he does. I would say, you know, but if you really want to like make that a go and give that a try, like the expensive parts about traveling is like lodging. So you could do like, you know, stay in hostels. You could do like these farm stays. One way a lot of people get started in it, they go to like Japan or Korea and they teach English, and then they try to do something while they're there. I don't think there's like a magic pill to a career in traveling. Sammy L says, are you planning on taking any drone footage for future travels? Also, which drone would you pick? I am not. I don't really do drones because I don't like to have to deal with all the drone regulations, and I also don't like to carry it with me. I like to travel pretty light. So that's a no. And then if I want to use drone footage, then maybe I just find some other ones that other people have taken, which is the introduction that you see in this video, and not my drone footage. But they're places I've been to. Carla asks if I've seen the Joker movie. Not yet. Kathy says, what's the music you use at the end of your live show? I really like it. That's a great question, Kathy. I was asked what music I use at the beginning too. So tell you what, for next live stream or the future live streams, I'm gonna put it in the description because I seem to get asked that question all the time and I never answer it. XXXYYY asks, how do you avoid pickpockets in popular places in Europe? Great question. You know, if you followed my channel much, maybe you know I got robbed in London, or I got my camera bag stolen, and I would just say you just have to be hyper vigilant. You have to keep your stuff close to you. You know, wallets, keep them in your front pockets. Bags, never set them down, never let go of them. Other than being hyper vigilant, I don't think I have a great answer about how to avoid pickpockets. A pretty neat tip that I heard from somebody was to actually like carry like 2 wallets, and in your main wallet, don't carry much money. That's the wallet, like if somebody comes to mug you or something, they can have that wallet, and you have a spot for your second wallet, which is the one you actually have money in. I would say when you're out in public, never like flash your wallet, flash your money, flash anything expensive. You can go in the bathroom and try to get your money out of your, you know, hidden spot. Shogunzilla asks how many Topher so far? 9 Topher submissions so far. Gilbo Production says, I'm going to Japan in January for the first time. What tips do you have for winter in Japan? Gilbo, it depends on what part of Japan, because the south isn't that cold, but if you go to Sapporo or Hokkaido, it's really cold. So, dress warm. Sorry, I don't have a better tip than that. Goddess wants to know where we're traveling next. We have nothing booked at the moment. QB3 says, do you know Mark from Walter's World? I have never met him in person, but I certainly know his channel. I think he has a pretty cool channel. Travis Family Travel says, how do you handle filming in a restaurant and tourist sites without making people uncomfortable or mad? I try to pick spots that aren't too obnoxious. If I'm in a restaurant and it's just too packed, then I won't do like obnoxious talking. One example of this was I was eating at the, what was it called? I don't know, it was a restaurant in Waikiki, but it was Momo-san. It was the Momo-san ramen in Waikiki. Morimoto, Chef Morimoto, Iron Chef. And so I didn't really feel comfortable about like doing a whole spiel while I was eating, so instead I shot just B-roll of the ramen, my noodles, the pot stickers, and then afterwards I recorded a voice track to it, and then I dropped the video that I shot while I was sitting there onto the audio track of me talking that I did right afterwards. So that was one way that I did it. And you know, if I'm in a restaurant and they say no filming, then it's too bad for them. They don't get the publicity, but that actually happens all the time. Kayleigh asks, when you go to a different country, how do you communicate with people? The good news is a lot of people speak English, but if they don't speak English, then like the point method, the symbol method works. Google Translate works very well as well. I try to learn a couple phrases in the local language, but I generally start things with like, hello, do you speak English? Either in English or in their language. And it usually works out pretty well. Okay, this page. Christopher says, hi Chris, my family and I are coming to California in 2 weeks, and one of our destinations is Big Bear. We don't hear much about the place. Have you been there? We've been there. Big Bear is a popular like snow winter destination. We've been there to do like snowboarding and sledding and things like that. It's a pretty small town, so you kind of go there, you maybe do some hiking, maybe do some sledding, some tobogganing, and then that's kind of it. That's kind of Big Bear for you. Jordan says, have you ever been to Tokyo? I'm going in December. Have you got any suggestions? I have lots of suggestions about Tokyo. I would just suggest you search Yellow Productions Tokyo. You will find probably 30 videos about Tokyo. The best toy stores, the best cheap eats, how to ride the subway. Go check those out. Shogunzilla says, go to Robot Restaurant, get tickets fast. I would agree with that. And Shogunzilla teaches English in Japan. Very cool. Guadalupe Santiago says, if you had to pick your top favorite island in Hawaii, which one would it be? That's a great question. And I did a video talking about Oahu versus Maui versus Kauai, which are the 3 islands I've been to. My favorite of the 3 islands is Oahu. Just as a general place, I like the food there, I like the city life, I like the entertainment. Even though Waikiki's crowded, I like the energy in Waikiki. I like the hotel choices that are there. Now, I like Maui for the beaches. If we're going for like a relaxing beach destination, then Maui is more awesome because the beaches are more relaxing. My favorite hotel in the world is the Andaz Hotel in Maui in Wailea. I love their beach. It's an amazing hotel, so check that one out. I don't love Kauai all that much because we're more city people. We're less like super outdoorsy people, and so Kauai is a much more like if you love hiking and you love nature and you want to hike like 3 hours to get to the beach, there's no people and no bathrooms, then Kauai is the place for you. Sigma Rex wants to know, what's the best public transportation system in the U.S. in your opinion? I think it's the New York City subway, not because it smells or looks the best, but because I just feel it's the most comprehensive and goes the most places. Journal Right says, what's the best advice to living like a local in tourist hotspots like Las Vegas, New York, and Hawaii? I would say my best advice for trying to live like a local is to get around like a local. And what do I mean like that? I mean, don't join a tour group, don't take a tour bus, don't take a hop-on, hop-off bus. Try to experience the city like locals would experience the city. And so in some place like New York, that means taking the subway, and that means walking around. And that means also trying to find the restaurants that don't look like they're the uber touristy restaurants, but the ones that are a little more local. But yeah, I don't think you have to live like a local to enjoy your destination. I mean, when I go to Hawaii, I don't live like a local because the locals don't enjoy Waikiki Beach the same way I do because I like to gawk at it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with living like a tourist. You just don't want to live like an obnoxious tourist or eat the tourist, like you don't want to eat tourist crap. But there's some touristy food that's actually really good. House of Sid asks if I'm going to do a meetup. I've been thinking about it. I just haven't done it yet. Would you like me to do one, Sid? Terry says, what neighborhood do you recommend staying in London as a tourist? So I generally stay at Marriott's. My, 3 that I've stayed in that we like the Marriott County Hall, we like the Marriott Park Lane, and we also just put up a review this Friday of the Renaissance St. Pancras Hotel at King's Cross. I think all 3 of those areas are pretty good as tourists. I think that in London, you want to be by some transport hubs. The Tube, because London's big, so make sure you can get around. Kayleigh says, I was robbed. How do you cope with this? It sucked when we were robbed in London, like it really did. We felt hurt, and if you watch the video that I uploaded kind of raw that same day saying I was robbed, it was not a great time. But I will say, you have to get over it. I don't know that I'm ever going to be like over it, but certainly all the outpouring of support that you have all provided, and all the Topher submissions, has just been amazing. Sammy asks which GoPro I use currently. I use the GoPro Hero 7 to do like time warp type footage, and then I also use the GoPro Fusion 360 camera to shoot my 360 scenes. Jordan asks if Tokyo is cheaper than New York City. I think so. Now Tokyo could certainly be more expensive. You could make it more expensive, but I think in general, like when I go to those places, I find Tokyo to be cheaper than New York City. Jeff says, ever went one place across the country and didn't stay in a hotel? My dad and I went to Los Angeles to see the Dodgers play at Dodgers Stadium before going to Las Vegas. Yeah, I've probably done that. I mean, the craziest thing I've done probably as a trip was take a trip to Singapore. I would take a trip to Singapore, and I stayed in Singapore for one night before I came back. And if you're not familiar with the term mileage run, so actually I did this mileage run to Singapore. Why Singapore? Because, you know, I needed 15,000 more United miles to keep my status. And Singapore from Los Angeles is almost always the cheapest place that you can go that's the furthest distance, like $500 or $600. There's often tickets from LA to Singapore. But hey, some of my Singapore videos are actually done on trips like that. Nicholas asks if I could do more top 5 hotels on the Las Vegas Strip. It would be cool if you did the top 5 best hotels for your money on the Las Vegas Strip. All right, I will consider that, Nick, and to tell you that I'm serious about considering that, I am going to write that down. Top 5 hotels, Las Vegas Strip. Yeah, cool. And I'm not writing it down to patronize you. Actually, I find a lot of the best ideas for videos are ones that you all say, hey, can you do one of these? Jordan asks, have you ever been in trouble by recording? I've been a lot of places where they've told me not to record, but I've never like gotten thrown in jail or anything like that. Larry says, what was your favorite spot in London? Ooh, I don't know. We enjoyed most of London. Favorite spot on this trip, I think the highlight of this trip, we took a tour inside the Buckingham Palace staterooms, which is something you can do in the summer when the Queen is in Scotland. On this trip, we also took a day trip to Oxford, which we really enjoyed. I would say that trip to Oxford was the highlight of our week in London, though Oxford is technically not in London, but that was the highlight of our tip. Sammy, do I think the Global Pass is worth it? Global Pass, do you mean Global Entry? Global Entry is a U.S. program to like bypass the lines. I mean, I think if you travel, it's good for like 5 years. If you travel internationally 2 or 3 times a year, I think it's worth it. Jugalov says, what's up with the plant in the background? It's a bird of paradise? I didn't mean to creep you out with it. It's really not that creepy. It's really pretty friendly. Brandon says, what's your favorite food after the double-double from In-N-Out? I have an In-N-Out cup, too. With iced tea. I think about watermelon juice. It's not quite as quenching as iced tea. So I like to say, if anybody ever asks me if I'm hungry or what I want, I have this conversation with OC Girl a lot of times where she's like, oh, what do you want to eat? And I will say, pizza, hamburger, Mexican. As long as I have something in the pizza, hamburger, Mexican category, I'm pretty good. So, growing up in Southern California, there's a lot of really great Mexican food around here. Pizza, hamburger, Mexican. Jordan says, hello, I've noticed on hotel staff badge, what does it mean if they have a French flag on their badge? I don't know. Does anybody else know? Yolanda says, is the double-double the 4x4? No, the double-double is 2 meat, 2 cheese. The 4x4 is 4 meat, 4 cheese. That is an In-N-Out burger. Vic Lau wants to know if I'm planning to do something with Brigham Young again. Actually, yeah, he just recently commented on one of my LA posts on Instagram and said we should do another video again. So I agree we should. And we said we would when we did the last one. Brigham Young, he's the guy who has a blog all about downtown Los Angeles. We did the new downtown LA walk together. So yeah, we need to find some other place to do a video for. Useful Muse says, I have a flight to Japan at the end of this month and I'm really excited to beat jet lag. Should I sleep on the flight or stay awake if I land at 7:30 p.m. Japan time? I'd probably try to sleep for a little bit at the beginning, but then stay up because, I mean, you're going to get there and then you're going to get to your hotel and then you should go to sleep right away. Michael responded about Big Bear saying he plays pinball there. Greg asks if we buy local SIM cards so that we have data on our phone. I have 3 answers to this. A great option for this is like T-Mobile. T-Mobile has like an international roaming plan. You could do that. We have gotten local SIM cards for our phones, and then sometimes we also get like a Wi-Fi egg. We did that in like Korea. It was pretty cheap. It was like $20 for a week. It was a Wi-Fi router that you just connect your phone to, and then you get data. Because frankly, I don't so much need to make phone calls on travel, but like I need data so I can do like Google Maps and all those kinds of things. OC Steve says, sup, Chris? Any conventions or geeky events planned for the rest of the year? I'll be ringside for the New Japan Pro Wrestling event, November at the Globe Theater. That sounds pretty cool, OC Steve. Geeky things, probably just going to Disneyland a bunch. And San Diego Comic-Con pre-sale next Saturday, so that's exciting. Eileen asks, are there any U.S. states you are anxious to visit? What are you anxious as in like, I don't want to go there because I'm too anxious, or anxious as in like, I want to go there? Probably the U.S. state that I want to go to the most that I haven't been to is Maine. Maine, which is in the very northeast corner of the U.S. But the flights are always really expensive from Southern California to get up there, which is why we've never been. Lynette says, how's the weather in Tokyo in May? I think it's good. I think it's a good time to go. Jordan wants to know if they sell pizza and Indian food. They do, but pizza, like not like good New York pizza. I would probably skip on the pizza, though I think they would probably do Indian food pretty good in Japan. They love curry, a Japanese style curry, but there's been a lot of like Indian inspired things we've eaten there. Top Shelf says, when is the best festivals in Japan and what time of year are they? Top Shelf, there are literally festivals all year in Japan. So, like, you have to pick where you're going and what you want to go see and then see that. I would say, like, if you have to pick one season, I would say it's cherry blossom season, because when the cherry blossoms are blooming, which is typically late March and early April, typically has the most amount of festivals. Let's see. Kaylee says, which airline is best and cheapest? Those are two different things. I mean, my personal preference for airlines, I fly United Airlines the most. I have over 1 million miles on United Airlines. Cheapest, I don't know that you want to go cheapest, right? There's Spirit, there's Frontier, there's EasyJet. There's a lot of these cheap carriers, but they're not that fantastic. I also like Southwest Airlines. I like Southwest general policy towards every ticket is not refundable, but at least you can get a credit for it, and it's changeable. You can check 2 bags. I like Southwest's approach to being an airline. Sigma Rex wonders, am I the only one who thinks that Pike Street, Pike Place Market in Seattle is a big tourist trap? Blech, so many attractions packed in one tiny place. Yeah, it's pretty much a tourist trap. Karen says, we need to microchip our new Topher. Probably do. Soham says, I loved your Seattle travel video. Will you add any more videos to it? Just moved there, so would love to learn more. That is all I got from the trip I was there on. So probably not until I go back to Seattle again. I don't know when that will be. QB3 says, what are your thoughts about using Amtrak to travel? I think Amtrak is great for like trips between cities like San Diego, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., New York City, Philadelphia, New York. I think it's pretty lousy for most other travel places because it's slow, it's not on time, and it takes a long time. I love trains. Don't get me. I love train. Like I love bullet trains. I love train travel. I just don't love Amtrak travel, unless it's a short trip that has lots of traffic, and in that case, Amtrak can be pretty good. Abel N says, what's the best beach in Oahu besides Waikiki? It depends what you like, but if you're looking for a beach just to like chill out and have pretty calm water, I like the beaches of Ko'olina, which is where the Disney Aulani Hotel is. But like beautiful beaches that you might not want to go in the water because the waves are huge, is like the North Shore, like the Bonsai Pipeline, Sunset Bay. There's a lot of great places there. Melissa's going to London. She just booked the Central Park Hotel near Hyde Park. Hope it's good. I've never stayed there. Anybody else online stayed at the Central Park London that could give a tip for Melissa? Jordan wants to know if I've ever stayed in a hostel or stayed out in the streets all night. I have never done either. The closest I've done to staying in a hostel is staying at a Motel 6. Chase loves all the Vegas videos. Thanks, Chase. I appreciate it. Peyton says, you don't talk about Texas much. Do you like it there? I like Texas. I've got a couple videos on Texas, but we haven't done a lot of travel to Texas. I love Texas barbecue, particularly the brisket in barbecue. Sigma Rex asks if I've ever stayed in Caesar's Palace. What's your opinion? A number of times, actually. I have no reviews on it, but I've stayed there a number of times. I generally like Caesar's Palace, particularly if you can get a room in one of the tower rooms. There's like the Augustus Tower, and there's another one. Their rooms can be quite nice. It's just expensive. Jordan asks if I have pre-check. Yes, I have pre-check and global entry. Melissa says, what's your favorite hotels you've stayed at in Paris? So being a Marriott person, I stay in a lot of Marriotts, and there's a Marriott that I find is pretty inexpensive that's on the South Bank called the Marriott. I'll pronounce it wrong. It sounds like Rive Gauche or something. I like that one just because it's cheap. I've also stayed at like various Marriotts around the Arc de Triomphe. If I have a favorite neighborhood to stay in, it's around the Arc de Triomphe. So I would suggest looking for something around there. Okay. Journal wants to know what my take on Amtrak getting rid of its dining car. They claim it's because millennial passengers don't like dining with strangers. I've never dined on an Amtrak. I've also never taken a long distance train. I mean, I think it's kind of a shame because I think that seems like a cool thing, but Carla asked, what's my favorite ice cream? Ooh, tough question. I would say I like gelato better than ice cream, and if I just had to pick a normal flavor, it would be strawberry. David McMullen says, does your ID have a star on it? And by that, do you mean, is it I don't know, they have these like fancy IDs now that are the federal IDs that you can fly with. Yes, I have one of those. Electric Rick says, hey, what's my recommendation for Mexican food in San Diego? My favorite Mexican restaurant in San Diego is Los Cuatro Milpas in Barrio Logan. It's right underneath the Coronado Bridge. I think Los Cuatro Milpas is fantastic. It's like this like mom and pop Mexican restaurant. And by the way, if people don't know, Electric Rick is my dad, and his favorite Mexican restaurant in San Diego is called Chiquitas. So if you're coming to San Diego, I want to check that out. That is my dad's favorite Mexican restaurant. Sammy says, do you prefer Lawson's or 7-Eleven Combini food when in Japan? My favorite convenience store in Japan, and I think they've been bought out by one of the chains, was Sun Plus. I really love the pudding from there. I go to all of them, so I don't know that I have a particular one. Yolanda says, do they have Puerto Nuevo grilled lobster in San Diego? There's probably some place that they do, though I don't know where it is off the top of my head because I'm not a big lobster fan. Kayleigh says, how can you upgrade for free in hotels? Have elite status with the hotel? Ask for it at the front desk. You never know what happens. Or you could try the tip where you just like hand them your driver's license and your credit card with like a $20 bill sandwiched in between it. Many people have reported that works well for them in Las Vegas. I have never done that. Kathy wants to know if I've ever been to Alaska. I have never been to Alaska. That is a really cold place. I'd like to go there sometime, but we've never been there. House of Sid says, where haven't you been that's still on your must-see list? There are a lot of places on our must-see list still. We've done a lot of like international travels, but less domestic U.S. travels. So we've never been to like the Grand Canyon or Mount Rushmore or Niagara Falls. So those are all places on our must-see list. I'd love to see the pyramids in Egypt. Melissa says, in your opinion, what are the top 3 attractions for Paris? Oh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. Because, I mean, I would say number 1, like I think walking the Champs-Élysées, which is like kind of their big shopping street. Number 2 is like the Eiffel Tower. Like you have to see the Eiffel Tower. So if you're going to do that, make sure you buy a ticket like 60 days in advance to go up there because those run out. And number 3, pick a museum. They're fantastic. I don't know that it's always the Louvre because it's so busy and huge, but there's a lot of cool museums in Paris. Let's see. OC Steve says, collaborative video again on a trip to Disneyland, aka the OC Mouse House, or just meet up? OC Steve, are you asking if I'm doing a collab video in Disneyland or a meetup, or if we should do both? I'm not sure what your question is. Guadalupe says, what's your top favorite hotel in Waikiki? My husband and I went to Hawaii 2 years ago, and your videos were so helpful. My top favorite hotel in Waikiki is the Westin Moana Surfrider Hotel. It's this like classic hotel from like the early 1900s. It's really neat. It has a really great location. I love that. There's like, if you want like really high end, it's like the Halekulani. Like I can never pronounce the name of this, but just near it and near the Sheraton, there's some high end ones. The ones I stay in most regularly, in addition to that Westin, is the Sheraton. The Sheraton on the oceanfront, not the Sheraton Princess something something, the Hilton Hawaiian Village, and then also the Marriott. Those are the ones I stay at most in Waikiki. Jordan asked if I'd recommend Megabus or Greyhound from New York City to Los Angeles. I think either of those would be torture on such a long bus ride, so I would recommend neither. I would recommend Southwest Airlines or I would fly. That's got to be such a long trip. Jordan asked if I've ever been on the New York City Air train. I have not. Peyton says, what YouTubers do you watch? That's a great question. I watch a lot of YouTube channels about how to make YouTube videos, like Video Creators, Think Media, their videos about how to make better videos. Somebody mentioned Walter's World, and you know, because I do a lot of Japan things, I also like to listen to a lot of Japanese pop music and a lot of Korean pop music. And then, of course, there was Jefferson Graham on here earlier. I also enjoyed Jefferson Graham's photo walks. He recently published one of Catalina Island, which was kind of fun. Nicholas Bowen says, in my opinion, Circus Circus has decent attractions, but is an awful hotel. Do you agree? I agree. Have you seen my video about the 5 worst cheap hotels on the Las Vegas Strip? If not, you should go check that out. Josh says, thanks for your Thailand videos. It helped me plan my trip. Can't believe you were game enough to try durian. Yeah, for those who don't know, durian is like really pretty smelly food. So I was game. I'm game enough to try everything. So I'm glad you enjoyed the Bangkok videos. Gene says, what tropical island would you like to go to next? I would say, of your list, the Maldives. I would like to go to the Maldives and stay in one of the overwater bungalow hotels. Kristen Eaton says, paper or plastic? It depends whether the paper bag has a handle. If it's a paper bag with a handle, I'm great with the paper bag with the handle. If not, then plastic, because I want something with a handle. I don't like the paper bags when they just give it to you and it's like a lunch bag sack. So you're like, I can't hold it. Gilbo says, have you ever been to Colorado? I work at the Denver airport. We've been to Colorado a few times. I've been to Denver a few times, Colorado Springs a few times. Our favorite destination in Colorado is Vail in Colorado, which is kind of like a expensive snow town. But we love that even if you don't ski or snowboard, you can take the lifts up to Mid-Vail, which is like an elevation of like 13,000 feet or something. Eat at the restaurants up there. Mike says the best Mexican food in San Diego used to be the Aztec dining room in Old Town, but it was torn down to make room for the light rail station about 20 years ago. Yeah, I never ate there. Interesting. Thanks for that. Jordan asked if the bullet train is faster than the Eurostar. I think they're probably about the same speed. Travis Family Travel says, do you know anything about the new driver's license that will be required to fly within the U.S.? I do. California is issuing them. And basically, when you go to like a place you would get a driver's license in the U.S., you have to bring proof of residency. So you have to bring like a passport and a bill that shows that you live there. If you have all those things, then they'll issue you a special driver's license that you can use to fly. Starting in like 2020, you either have to have one of those or a passport. Sammy says, if you can pick one place to live outside of California, where would you pick? I would pick Tokyo, Japan. Carmen says international flights are a bargain from LAX. It's less expensive to fly international sometimes. That describes why we've been to a lot of international destinations and less national destinations in the U.S. because it's often cheaper for us to fly to Japan than it is to fly to New York City, sadly. QB3 says, any plans to travel Route 66? It'd be fun. I've traveled from San Diego to the East Coast on Route 40, and all the way West Coast to East Coast, and then coming back, I've done it on the Route 70, which is kind of more of a northern route. I liked 40 rather than 70 better. Journal Wright says, which amusement parks do you think are the most overrated? I don't know. I like amusement parks, so I've got none to complain about. Have you been to Ireland? If so, would you rent a car to travel around the country or do public transportation? We've been to Ireland. We rented a car to travel around the country. I would recommend you do that because Ireland has a lot of cool rolling hills and sheeps and things like that. I think Attila wants to make sure I see this, which is please do more videos on Vegas hotels, most value. Okay, thank you, Attila. I took a note to do a video called the top 5 hotels on the Las Vegas Strip. The top 5, I clearly missed half of that, but it was like the top value hotels. Yes, so I will do a video about that. AKW says, do you ever plan on doing a video in Flagstaff? I have spent one night in Flagstaff. At one point I did not do a video. If I roll through there, probably on the way to the Grand Canyon, then perhaps, though Flagstaff doesn't seem like a huge destination. Sammy wants to know if I've ever watched The Boys. I have not. I'm going rapid fire now because we're running out of time. The Films wants to know if I've ever been to Catalina. Yes, about 10 years ago. Have we been to any Mexican cities? Tijuana, Ensenada, and Cabo San Lucas. Oh, David said, if plastic or paper meant cash or card. In that case, card, because I always use cards because I want to use cards to get the most reward points so I can travel for free more, obviously. Sigma says, did you get freaked out by the horse sculpture and murals? No, I don't know that I paid attention to them enough to get freaked out about them. Okay, so it is giveaway time. I always do a giveaway on these live streams, and today, what are we giving away today? Today, it'll be a pair of Yellow Production socks. These fancy Yellow Production socks. They're really good. They're two-tone, black on the bottom, white on the top with yellow. To answer this question, the first person to answer this wins these, and I'll ship them anywhere in the world. The question is, what is the most Instagrammed place in the world? What is the most Instagrammed place in the world? I mentioned it earlier, about 15 minutes into this video. So if you remember that and you answer it and you're the first to say it, then you'll win a pair of socks. And there's always an interesting debate about who says it first, and lately some people have been saying, well, Chris, you picked this person, but I said it first, and you know, you may have feel like you typed it first and you got theirs second, but they come in a certain order when they go to everybody else, and so that's the order that I picked them from. It is whoever shows up on my screen first. And so lots of good guesses and lots of correct answers, but the first person to give the correct answer on my side of the screen is Kathy Ryan. Kathy Ryan, congratulations, you get a pair of socks. So send me a Facebook message or email to chris@yellow.net with 2 W's and let me know where you'd like me to send your socks. And they will get on their way to you. And there were a lot of people who said, I'm so late, I'm so late. Yes, it was Disneyland, the most Instagrammed place in the world. All right. Well, with that, it is now 8:59 p.m., and I believe all good meetings and all good live streams and all good presentations always end on time, so I want to honor your time. You honor me every Monday by joining these live streams. Thank you very much. I love hanging out with y'all. I love chatting with you all. The next scheduled live stream is going to be 2 weeks from today, Monday, October 21st, 8 p.m. Los Angeles time. What's the topic going to be? I don't know yet. But if you follow me on Facebook, you'll get more updates. Follow my community page. I always post the topic a few days before, so you can find it there. 2 weeks today, 8 p.m. And always, there are new videos every Friday, 7 in the morning, Los Angeles time. So stay tuned this Friday for a new video. As usual, I won't say goodbye because I'm going to see you all in the next video.